Imagine yourself living in a large regional city with a population of close to 80,000. Take Rockhampton, for example, a city of central Queensland that is a home of 0.32% of the current Australian population. This entire city's population is equal to that of the amount of Lebanese people currently living in Australia and totals up to approximately 1.3% of the entire country's residents. Located in Western Asia, this urbanised Middle Eastern country is renowned for its highly Mediterranean-like style of eating and nutritionally dense foods. Fittingly, its coastline runs along the Mediterranean Sea, where many of its market vegetables and some fruits such as bananas are grown. Meat and poultry are also agriculturally raised on the foothills of the city, alongside the principal crops being grown including grapes, olives, almonds and figs. Today we will be diving into the eating culture of Lebanon, their ethnically diverse background, the most highly consumed foods and how they compare to the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating, and how Lebanese people adapt to the Australian food market with the advantages and disadvantages of the market. The unique cultural history makes Lebanese cuisine the most popular food of all Middle Eastern cuisines. It is a country that is fortunate enough to have a huge number of local foods and animals, as the weather and location of the country provides fertile lands. Due to this, the land has always been densely populated, as fruits, vegetables, meats and fish are always readily available. As time went on, Islam gradually rose in 600s. Both Damascus and Jerusalem became centres of the religion, and Lebanon, sitting between the two, benefited from their location and abundance of food, as Levantine cuisine was born and developed. The influence of the Levant is most obvious in the use of spices. For instance, za'atar, which is used extensively in Lebanese cooking, has been enjoyed in this region for thousands of years. Classic Lebanese dishes such as hummus, a dip consisting of mashed chickpeas or garbanzo beans, tahini, garlic and lemon, and manouche can also be traced back to ancient roots in Levantine cuisine. Since the 1500s, Lebanon has been ruled by foreign powers, which have affected the eating habits of the Lebanese people. By far, the biggest impact on Lebanese cuisine has come from the Ottoman Empire via their occupation of more than 400 years. Under the Ottoman influence, lamb became the meat of choice. The stuffing of meat and vegetables became popular and strong. Dark Turkish coffee was introduced. Lebanese have also had Ottomans to thank for their delicious assortment of baklava, as well as a wide range of fruits, nuts and breads. After the Ottomans were defeated in World War I, France took control of Lebanon until 1946, when the country won its independence. During this time, the French introduced some of their most widely eaten foods, particularly treats such as flan and caramel custard desserts dating back to the 1500s, and buttery croissants. Lebanon is a country that both Muslims and Christians call home, and many of the country's most important celebrations are focused on religion. There are two major Muslim holidays in Lebanon, including Eid al-Fitr, which is an event filled with numerous foods. These foods differ from family to family, but generally consist of various meats and fish as a base with other grains and vegetables on the side. The celebrations occur immediately after Ramadan, a religious holiday that requires fasting for 30 days. Muslims celebrate several holidays throughout the year, though probably none are as important as the holiday of Ramadan. During the entire 9th month of the Islamic calendar, Muslims avoid all food and drink between sunrise and sunset. Soup, fater, a chickpea and yogurt dish, and kabouj, a nutty-rich pastry, are especially eaten during Ramadan. The second major Muslim celebration is Eid al-Adha, which is only celebrated after a pilgrim returns from Hajj, the mandatory journey for every able Muslim to go to Mecca. Again, this festival contains a large number of rice and meat dishes, including many of those served during Eid al-Fitr. During this time, a sheep is killed and eaten after returning from the Hajj. Many families donate a portion of their sheep to the poor. For the Christians, the Christmas celebration in Lebanon is extremely important, as Christian families indulge in numerous foods. Most traditional food served for Christmas dinner in Lebanon is turkey, but this can be accompanied by other meats and side dishes. Dessert is perhaps the most enjoyable part of this meal, as it usually contains chocolate and liquor. Lebanon has long maintained links with other parts of the world. Beirut was once known as the Paris of the Middle East, and for thousands of years, nomads would pass through with all sorts of exotic delicacies, such as dried fruits and spices from the Far East. Nowadays, Lebanese people live in almost every country on earth, and often bring new spices, flavours and influences back to Lebanon when they came home to visit. Lebanon is bounded on the north and east by Syria, on the west by the Mediterranean, and on the south by Israel. It consists of two mountain chains, the Lebanon and the Anti-Lebanon, a narrow coastal strip where all the major cities lie, and a fertile plain, the Bekaa Valley, which lies between the two chains and provides most of the local agricultural produce. The Lebanese consider eating out as a social and almost aesthetic experience. Therefore, People almost never eat alone and go to restaurants to eat together.
It is said that Lebanese food is one of the freshest and most delicious on the planet. As well as that, there is a lot of variety that can be eaten. In one sitting, the Lebanese dishes often can be large or small. The smaller dishes are called meza, which is food like dips and salads. On the other extremes, the large meals can often consist of meat kebabs, seafood, grilled meats, salads, and desserts. So there's often no shortage of food in the Lebanese culture. A unique cultural history has helped to make Lebanese food the most popular in all of Middle East. From 1516 to 1918, the Ottoman Turks controlled Lebanon and introduced a variety of foods to the Lebanese diet. This includes olive oils, baklava, bread, leban, stuffed vegetables, and a variety of nuts and lamb. After the Ottomans were defeated in World War I, France took control of Lebanon until 1946, when the country won its independence. The French introduced some of their mostly widely eaten foods, such as flan, a caramel custard dessert, and a buttery croissant. Ancient tribes of Lebanon journeyed through Middle East carrying foods that would not spoil easily, such as rice and dates. 61% of Lebanese are Muslims, whereas 38.3% of Lebanese are Christians. Lebanese cuisine features such staples as kibbeh, which is a ground meat, and tabbouleh, which is a salad of parsley, mint, and wheat. The food is simply prepared with the flavours blending together into a complex medley of earthly, fruity tastes and scents. Pita bread is also a staple, and this is enjoyed alongside hummus and full dips. Rice is also common among their diets. Chicken and red meats are mostly common eaten in daily dishes. However, pork provides a limitation, as this is quite a big Muslim area and this is not allowed in their culture. The Lebanese also celebrate Ramadan, which is the Muslims' month of fasting. During this time, they are not allowed to eat during daylight, meaning that at sunset, their dishes are quite large, and these dishes are commonly feta, which is a chickpea yogurt dish, soup, and a rich pastry. With the traditional Lebanese food culture originating around the Mediterranean lifestyle, the meals are based on share plates, such as dips, salads, breads, as well as meat kebabs, grilled and marinated seafood, and Lebanese desserts. The culture around surrounds the fundamental nature of food being a ritual, bringing families and friends together. Just like the Lebanese, Australia also has an eating culture that brings family and friends together. Unlike an everyday event, there are particular days, for example Australia Day, that people gather together amongst food and drink. Australia is unlike other societies with a dominant agrarian history, meaning no cuisine has been inherited in a traditional sense. This means Australia's cuisine is dynamic within the food culture, with most supermarkets having a large selection of international stock. Although most supermarkets are not stocked with Lebanese food items, there has been an increase in Middle Eastern specific food stores around Australia, meaning Lebanese can access most ingredients when needed. With most of the basic Lebanese plates having vegetables, meats, salad items, and breads, these items are very easily accessible in Australia. Eating out in Australia may be hard for Lebanese to adapt to if they are living in rural areas. While rent in Australia can be very expensive in the middle of the city, as you move away from city centres, the rent in places declines due to the decreasing market competitiveness in outer suburbs and rural areas. Most migrants and immigrants will look for something cheaper due to their home country having cheaper living expenses. However, Lebanese restaurants and niche marketplaces are mostly found close to the city. This would be a challenge for Lebanese residents, as in rural areas they would need to either make their food daily or do large bulk shops weekly, or start to make their traditional recipes with changes based on location and source products at their local supermarket. Not only would the location impact their eating culture, but the pricing of food in Australia has influenced their eating lifestyle. Australia's cost of living index sits around number 11 in the world, meaning the lifestyle and living expenses for an average Australian is expensive compared to average wage earned. The Lebanese people have a cost of living that is 20% lower than Australia, with most meats and cheese in Australia equivalent to what they would find in Lebanon. The main ingredients in Lebanese cooking is fruit, vegetable and bread. These can be found near 40% less expensive in Lebanon than Australia. This could have a large impact on the amount of food and dishes made due to the increased prices of these essential ingredients.
Much like Australia's Dietary Guideline Manual, the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating, the Lebanese Cedar Food Guide provides recommendations on up-to-date information on food, nutrition, and consumption for the adult population living in the country of Lebanon. However, similarly to many Australian homes and families, these incredibly useful guidelines are not always met nor followed. As stated previously, predominantly cereals and breads have wielded their way into many of the traditional Lebanese foods, including, but not limited to, chickpea hummus and manouche, both of which are still regularly shared and consumed by Lebanese families in contemporary society and contribute mainly to their cuisine. Fittingly, grains and cereals have assumed the position of the most frequently eaten food group by the average middle-aged Lebanese adults, providing around 35% of their daily energy intake, according to the 2004 study of Lebanon food consumption patterns conducted by head author Lara Nadassine and the Lebanese Council for Scientific Research. Although the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating does not constitute a specific percentage for the number of cereals that should be consumed within a day, it does, however, include a rough estimate of how much an Australian adult's daily intake of foods should be made up of these foods, ideally being whole grains. According to these guidelines, cereals should make up no less than 25%, but no more than 30% of the total food consumption. Here is where a similarity between the Australian dietary guidelines on carbohydrates is reflective of the traditional Lebanese cuisine. While this difference is only minor, most of these fibre-rich foods contain higher amounts of sugars. Yet on the other hand, they can also provide many benefits such as protection against heart disease, assistance in weight management, and increased bowel health. Contradictory to this, the dissimilarity between the normal protein, meat, and poultry intake in Lebanon versus the recommendations made by the Australian Department of Health is quite distinctive. As recorded by Lara Nasreddine, the mean intake of meat and poultry products in the Lebanon capital, Beirut, was 91.7 grams a day and provided 8.8% of daily energy intake, with consumption of butchery products, especially beef, being the highest, followed by poultry. As well as this, a low consumption of fish, being less than 2 servings weekly or 20 grams per day, was concluded. Compared to the Australian protein guidelines, this figure should be approximately doubled for men aged below 70 and just less than doubled in women aged under 70. This was also supported by the Australian Better Health Channel, which was produced in consultation with the Dietary Associations of Australia. In saying that, the average woman should consume 0.75 grams of protein per kilogram of their total body weight, and for men this should reach about 0.84 grams per kilogram. Predominant influences on the Lebanese cuisine have profoundly impacted the large daily incorporation of fruits, vegetables, nuts, and spices in many households. In turn, a wide variety of fresh produce and low-energy foods are consumed as a part of their cuisine, and as a result, the Lebanese tend to live a moderately healthy lifestyle. This lifestyle leads to very little health-related implications. However, as of 2012, the leading cause of mortality was in fact cardiovascular disease, which can be brought on as a result of obesity, underactivity, and an unhealthy diet and lifestyle. This may be because of the excessive amount of meats, eggs, and poultry they consume, although not because of the nutrients within these protein-filled foods, but because of the energy that is associated with ingesting such a large amount of it. Otherwise, this could also be a combination of many products, including overall energy intake, body composition, and inactivity on a daily basis.